watching a D6 pack video, and today I'm going to show you how to make a foam core insert. So I'm going to switch the camera around and just show you a different angle of just how you put one together, but I wanted to show you some of the tools that you might need first. I use these pins from dress shirts as like little staples to hold the foam core together at the edges while the glue dries. Speaking of glue, I use just good old-fashioned Elmer's glue. I think the important part here is that you're going to have something that dries clear. You're also going to need some form of a knife to cut your foam core, and I know they make fancy like hobby knives and stuff, but I tend to just use a good old-fashioned razor knife. If you have a new blade in it, it works pretty well, so that's how I do that. You'll also want a metal yardstick and or ruler. The ruler I find is handy for making smaller cuts that the yardstick is a little unwieldy for. You are going to want it to be metal though, because if you use a wooden one, as you cut along the edge, it'll slowly wear away at the ruler, so you won't get nice straight lines like you do with the metal ones. You will also want some foam core. This is something you can find at either a craft store or like a all-purpose store. I think I bought this at Meijer. It comes in black or white. I think the black looks a little better, so that's what I go with. You may also want a self-healing mat. They seem a little bit pricey, but the first foam core I made, I used a cardboard box, which worked, but it made a complete mess of the living room, so I had all these little slivers of cardboard all over the carpet, and it's a little messy. These I find are really nice. They keep everything clean, and they prevent you from scratching anything, so I recommend that you put the money forward to get one of those. I think it's worth the investment. So that is pretty much it for the tools. Let me switch my camera around and I'll show you how you get started. So unfortunately I lost the video of me making this. This is going to be the main box for the rides. So I cut all the pieces to size and then I glued them together, and they still have the pins in them because the glue is still wet. One thing I would advise is let this dry for maybe an hour or 30 minutes depending on what your glue says, and then take the pins out. If you let this dry completely, the pins are very hard to get out. So that is the first box. So I'm going to let that dry, and then I'm going to see how many of these rides will actually fit into there, and then I'll show you how I make the next box. so that's pretty much it. I know that all went pretty quickly, so just to make sure you didn't miss anything, let me walk you through my thought process as I was designing this insert. So, as you noticed, one of the first things that I started with were these two big trays. Because the rides are going to take up the majority of the space in this box, I figured that those are going to be the place that I want to start, because I want to make sure that there's going to be space for them as opposed to anything else. So I started there and I measured it a little bit wider than necessary. You can see there's a bit of a space here, but I'm actually pretty happy with the way that the rest of the dividers worked out, so I'm not too upset with that. But it's better to measure big than small anyway. So that was where I started. From there, I just took the rest of the box and kind of laid out what would fit in the rest of it. I did decide that I kind of wanted to have these, I think they're attraction tokens or something like that, set up. And apparently they don't quite stay in the box, but I was testing it with some vigorous shaking, so that's fine. But I think that this tray will still work pretty well for organizing those, and I'm happy with the way that came out. Then I took the rest of this and looked at what I needed to fit. The spacing here just happened to work out perfectly for the extra area tiles. And then over here I had a good space for some cards and the player tokens. The dice I just decided to throw on top there, and then the robots fit in there. And in order to fit all of these loose tiles, I just kind of left enough space on the top of the box that they would notch in there. And that's worked out pretty well. So, like I said, I'm happy with that. Then the last part was the money and the dirt tokens. I made a tray to go on top of all the attractions, and I separated it out by denominations of money and the size of the dirt tokens, so everything is organized neatly. Everything is modular, so it can come out and get passed around the table, and that was my whole goal with making this. It all fits nicely in the box. There's plenty of room for rules. I didn't design this quite snugly, so if you're going to shake these around, you'll see that the attraction tiles, or the stands, kind of shifted around. The dirt tokens will shift around as well. So if you want to correct that, you could just cut another piece of foam core to the size of the box, put that on top, and that'll hold everything in place. I just kind of throw the rules in, and if that's something that I think is necessary down the road, I might come back and add it, but at this time I don't think it's necessary. So that's it. Alright, so hopefully that gives you an idea of how to create your own foam core. If you have any questions or comments, please feel free to contact me in the comments below. And if you enjoyed this video, please subscribe to our channel and check out our audio podcast, D6 Pack Podcast. You can find us on SoundCloud or pretty much any podcast streaming app. So check us out. Thanks.